Ladies and gentlemen, you are tuned in to your regularly scheduled program, The Jesus Broadcast.
Welcome to the Jesus Broadcast. In today's video, I want to highlight two remarkable instances of wisdom, creativity, and storytelling. Now we're going to approach this on two levels. On the micro scale, where we'll celebrate the craft of phenomenal directors and their narrative genius, and on the macro scale, where we'll observe the story our creator is telling through his creation. To start, we're going to explore a literary device that has been shaping storytelling for a millennia: the Bible's use of typology. Alright, let's discuss typology. Typology is a method for revealing patterns, connections, and foreshadowing across a story. Now, we see this either in scripture or on the screen. In the Bible, it shows how people, events, and institutions in the Old Testament are called types, and how they point toward a greater fulfillment in Jesus Christ. Now, this creates a seamless, overarching narrative that reveals God's wisdom, unifies scripture, and prepares his people for the Messiah. Similarly, in film and television, typology appears when characters, events, or themes in one story foreshadow or echo a later narrative. A mentor's sacrifice, a symbolic journey, or an emerging empire may hint at future events in a saga, connecting multiple installments into one coherent story. By using these patterns, storytellers like George Lucas, the Russo brothers, or Jon Favreau build narratives that feel intentional, layered, and resonant. This mirrors the way God's story unfolds across scripture. Now, when we look at the Bible, we see a web of stories linking together, essentially building to the grand story's climax, the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. One of the clearest examples of typology in the Bible is Abraham being asked to offer his son Isaac on Mount Moriah. Genesis chapter 22 verse 2 records God saying, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you." Now we see here in this passage of scripture that Isaac carries the wood for the burnt offering. I believe this is a foreshadowing of how Christ would carry the cross in his passion on the mountain of Golgotha. Now at this last moment, we see in this scene that a ram appears as a substitute right before Abraham begins to sacrifice his son. We see that the substitute is a substitute for Isaac, and it's very much a pointer towards the substitutionary sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Now, one of the most profound pieces of this story is the instruction to give up the one and only son. This surely points forward to the ultimate fulfillment, God giving his one and only son. Another story that most may know or may have heard before is Jonah and his 3 days and 3 nights within the belly of the large fish. It's pretty cool in the fact that the scripture shows us that his story goes beyond just learning the lesson of obedience and faith. It foreshadows what Christ would ultimately do in the tomb, spending 3 days and 3 nights prior to his resurrection. Now, I want to discuss the construction of the tabernacle and all of its pieces. Now, to the reader, this may seem meticulous, redundant, or even boring. The rituals year after year were laborious and required the utmost precision. I mean, any wrong move could result in the person getting smoked. Honestly, now aside from God being a holy God and requiring the priestly individuals to be intentional with every action, this priestly system was deliberately designed to foreshadow Christ and his heavenly mediation. Now, these examples show typology creating a seamless story across history, linking events in a way that builds toward a single comprehensive plan. Before we step back to the bigger picture, I want us to pause and observe human creativity at work on the micro scale. Here we're going to look at how directors and storytellers craft layered, interconnected narratives. The MCU is a great example, not to explore its philosophy or moral framework, but to see how skillful storytelling creates patterns, echoes, and foreshadowing across multiple films. The work and collective effort that goes into constructing an interconnected universe such as this is by means no small feat. Directors like Jon Favreau, the Russo brothers, and Taika Waititi don't just make one film. They consider how each story fits into a larger universe, and a character's choices, how a character speaks, moves, or reacts, and even the recurring visual patterns build towards something bigger. Favreau, for instance, sets up Tony Stark's personality, humor, and ingenuity in Iron Man. I mean, this creates the threads that would weave throughout the entire franchise. Take Tony's journey. We see Stark as a self-focused inventor become a hero who carries immense responsibility. I mean, the films plant subtle cues, small decisions and interactions, even challenges that foreshadow the choices that Tony Stark will ultimately have to make and face later on in the MCU. So much so that we see Stark labor in Avengers Age of Ultron to place preventative measures in place to halt the events that he saw soon to unfold. Thanos is another example. His ongoing presence across multiple films gradually raised the stakes. His initial presence in the end credits of the first Avengers film show fans the promising future of the Marvel Universe. The directors and writers coordinate Thanos' story so that tension escalates naturally. Thanos is the hovering, brooding darkness present throughout all that transpires, and he's essentially behind the scenes. I honestly think this is why his confrontations with the Avengers felt so climatic and satisfying. I can't mention Iron Man and Thanos without mentioning Steve Rogers. I mean, come on. Even with different directors, characters like Steve Rogers maintain consistent arcs. Now, Steve Rogers' leadership role, ongoing moral clarity, and his adaptation to contemporary times is something that we see persistent across all of the films that he is in. Now, Steve's story from Captain America to Endgame demonstrate how careful orchestration allows individual stories to contribute to a coherent, sprawling universe. I think it's quite remarkable that directors use the techniques of foreshadowing, recurring patterns, and interconnected arcs to craft a story that feels intentional, cohesive, and layered. On this micro scale, we can see that human storytelling is deliberate and a creative process. I mean, this echoes the kind of narrative thinking that we observe in typology itself. The careful layering of the Marvel Universe rewards its attentive viewers. Stepping back to the macro scale, we see a similar intentionality in the story our creator tells. Just as directors weave patterns, foreshadowing, and arcs across multiple films, God weaves patterns, typology, and historical events into a single unified story. From Genesis through the Gospels and the Gospels to Revelation, the Bible reveals a consistent plan, one that builds incrementally, foreshadows ultimate fulfillment, and shows wisdom and intentionality on a grand scale. The story of humanity's redemption and reconciliation through Jesus Christ was not by any means arbitrary. It unfolds under God's grand design. What we see unfold in this age pales in comparison as to what will come in the future. As we wrap up for today, I believe that we can all be on the same page regarding what we notice in storytelling. Whether human or divine, storytelling serves a purpose beyond mere entertainment or observation.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next time on another transmission from the Jesus Broadcast.